All right, so today we're going to be diving into something I think a lot of people have a lot of, nostalgia for, right? Batman, the animated series. We're going all the way back to 92 for this one.
Oh, yeah. A classic.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to be using Wikipedia, and believe it or not, we even dug up a Roger Ebert review of Batman, the animated series.
Wow. Going old school.
Yeah, because I mean, honestly, this was not your typical Saturday morning cartoon. You know what?
Right. This was something special for sure. I mean, even today, people are still ranking it as one of the best animated shows ever. And honestly, I think you can see its fingerprints on every Batman portrayal since.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like right off the bat, no pun intended, but that whole visual style, like the dark deco, it's just, I don't know, it just totally works, right?
Yeah.
And it's more than just a name, right? Like it's a whole thing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It was a very conscious choice by the creators. You know, they wanted to capture that kind of timeless feel of those classic black and white detective films and blend it with, Gotham's architecture and atmosphere.
Yeah.
And honestly,
Yeah.
I think it worked brilliantly. I mean, you think about those opening title cards, the color palettes they used, it just oozes atmosphere.
Absolutely, yeah. And those backgrounds, too, they didn't skimp on that stuff. All the shadows, all those details, it's like you really felt like you were right there in Gotham.
Right.
Like in the dark with him.
Absolutely. And that's where the magic of, painting on black really came in. I know it sounds simple, putting down those dark colors first, then layering the light on top. But honestly, it just gave the show this incredible richness and depth that most cartoons at the time just, they didn't have.
Yeah. Absolutely not. And, okay, so the animation's amazing, right? But we can't forget about the voices. Mark Hamill as the Joker.
Come on, legendary.
You like a psycho.
Yeah, what a casting choice, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you think about it. The dude was Luke Skywalker. It's incredible. Talk about range.
I know.
But, yeah, it just shows that, they were taking it seriously. This wasn't like a throwaway thing for them.
Nope.
The voice acting was important.
And you know what else? This wasn't just some, phoned-in voiceover session. These people, they brought it,
Right.
Like they gave actual performances. And it wasn't just Mark Hamill,
No.
We're talking Adrienne Barbeau, Ron Perlman. Heck, even Adam West showed up at one point.
Oh, yeah. It was a stacked cast.
Yeah.
And I think that's important, right? Like that level of talent behind the mics, I think that really helped to create such nuanced villains, which is something this show was really, really good at.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, speaking of villains, they didn't just make them cool. They made them, like, human.
Yeah.
They gave them depth.
Yeah.
And, like, Clayface is a great example of that,
Oh, man. Clayface, that origin story, man. Oof.
It's rough, right? Like, he wasn't always a monster. He was an actor.
Right.
And then, this tragic accident happens. It completely changes him.
Yeah.
It's really tragic. But, they took this relatively obscure Batman villain who was honestly kind of goofy in the comics, and they gave him this incredibly human, relatable backstory.
They really did.
And the craziest part is the comics were so impressed with what the show did that they adopted BTS's origin story for Clayface.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's how influential this show was.
It's kind of amazing, right? Like they took these villains who, in a lot of ways, were kind of, just like evil for the sake of being evil. And they actually gave them like real depth and motivations you could understand.
Right. Like you felt for these guys, even rooted for them sometimes.
Totally.
And speaking of, Mr. Freeze, talk about a glow up.
Oh, man.
He went from like this cheesy villain with the ice puns to like this Shakespearean figure driven by this love for his sick wife. It was like tragic.
Yeah. They really fleshed out his whole backstory and everything.
It added a whole new dimension,
Absolutely. And like those are just two examples. I mean, we could go on and on.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't talk about Batman the animated series without talking about Beware the Gray Ghost. Like if you haven't seen that episode, I mean,
oh man, yeah, so good.
It's one of those ones that just really sticks with you,
Absolutely. That episode like perfectly sums up what makes the show so great. You've got action, you've got nostalgia, you've got like surprisingly deep themes all in one episode.
Right. Like for people who haven't seen it, it's the one where Batman meets his childhood hero, right? The Gray Ghost.
Yeah, but like here's the best part. So they get Adam West, right?
What? No way.
Yeah, the actual Adam West.
Get out.
Yeah. To voice the Gray Ghost.
That's amazing.
It's amazing.
It's like the show is winking at you.
It's so meta.
I love.
But it's not just like a cute little, Easter egg or whatever.
Right.
The episode's actually really good.
Yeah.
And like kind of sad, honestly.
Yeah.
You have this aging actor, right? Who's been totally forgotten, you
Yeah.
know, clinging to like the glory days of his character. And you see Batman kind of grapple with that,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it makes you think about, about legacy and getting older, and it's deep.
Yeah, like a kind of heavy stuff for a kids show.
Right. And it really makes you wonder, like, what was it about this show that let it get away with that kind of stuff?
Yeah, like why was this the show that was able to do it?
Right. And I think it's a few things. I mean, the writing was incredible.
Oh yeah, top notch.
They really weren't afraid to tackle, some tougher topics,
Mm.
loss, fear, even like, political corruption.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you combine that with, like we were saying before, with the phenomenal voice acting,
Absolutely.
which added a whole other layer of depth to the characters and the stories.
Yeah. And you can't discount the animation style either. I mean, that dark, that noir-ish kind of aesthetic, it really lended itself to those more mature themes.
Totally. It creates this atmosphere like something bad's about to happen.
Yeah.
Like you don't get that from, Scooby-Doo.
Exactly. So it's like we've got like the perfect storm, right? You've got the writing, the incredible voice acting, this unique visual style. It's like no wonder it's had such a lasting impact,
Yep.
Like this is a show that has had serious legs, and that's something, that's something I think we need to unpack a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Because, I mean, this show didn't just, entertain people.
Right.
It influenced like an entire generation of creators.
It really did. It's crazy to think about how far the show's reach really goes.
Oh, yeah. It's huge. Like you can see direct connections from BTAS to like the Arkham game.
Oh, for sure.
Even like I'd argue Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy.
Whoa. Really? I mean, I can see the Arkham thing. Right? Like that whole like gothic, feel, and even some of the voice actors, right? They came back for those games.
Right. Exactly. But Nolan.
Yeah, but think about it. Think about like the focus on, Batman's psychology.
Okay. Yeah.
The tone is much darker.
Yeah.
Even just the way Gotham feels, right? Like it's its own character.
Okay.
Those are all things that like BTS did first.
Huh. That's a really good point. It's like this cartoon, this show that everyone thought was like just for kids kind of laid the groundwork for like a whole new way of thinking about Batman.
Exactly. And it's not even just those like huge blockbuster movies either, right? I mean, you see its influence in comics and other animated shows.
Yeah.
Heck, even just the way people talk about Batman today, like it really changed things.
So then like what's the takeaway here? Like what can we learn from like the legacy of Batman, the animated series? I think it shows us that even these stories that we feel like we know, right? Like they can be reimagined, they can be reinvented in ways that we never would have even thought of,
Yeah.
And that animation, this medium that a lot of people write off as like, oh, it's just for kids,
Right.
It can be this incredibly powerful way to explore really complex themes.
Totally.
And to connect with audiences of all ages.
Yeah.
You don't have to be like a little kid to enjoy this stuff.
It's like they cracked the code or something,
Right.
They figured out how to make something that was entertaining but also like made you think.
Mm.
And they never talked down to their audience, and I feel like that's a big part of why it's still so beloved today,
Totally. And it makes you wonder, like, what other, childhood stories are out there that could use that kind of treatment?
Yeah. Like what would a truly like mature, nuanced, like He-Man be like?
Right. Or Thundercats.
Oh, man.
Like, imagine if they really dug into, like, the responsibility of having all that power.
Oh, wow.
Or exploit, like, themes of prejudice or social justice or something,
Man, the possibilities are endless.
Right. DTS proved that you can take these familiar stories and do new things with them.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's the best way to, like, honor a classic,
Absolutely.
is to kind of push the boundaries of what it can be.
It's been so fun diving into this with you.
Yeah, this was great.
And for all of our listeners out there, we want to hear from you. What childhood stories do you think deserve the BTAS treatment, Let us know. And until next time, keep on exploring.